we have to say this out loud, is that the best coaches are your youth coaches, in my opinion, to be where they are and teaching the next generation. I think we need to give credit to Neil Tovey. He was running clinics and he was looking for young coaches. He found this group of coaches and we started joining Tovey. And the first super center we opened up was the one in Alexander. If I may say, we were very successful there because we had a philosophy at the School of Excellence. If you score 5 goals, we'll score 6 goals.
Well, my next guest on this next episode of Behind the Boot with Super Journal, I'm so privileged to have him in studio. Coach Cavin Johnson, he's coached at Al Ahly, he's coached at Kaizer Chiefs, Amazulu, did some amazing stuff with Platinum Stars, and of course, how can we forget being part of the School of Excellence and bringing up young talent. Steven Pienaar, one that quickly jumps to mind. He joins me now for the next hour. Coach Cavin Johnson, such a pleasure to have you in studio as my guest. What intrigued me to bring you on here was when I saw on your social media, I saw from Westbury to the world. And I said, that's a pretty interesting topic, because everybody's always trying to squeeze you for Kaiser Chiefs comments. They think you're going to say something earth-shattering and dramatic. But what I want to discuss here is just your career overall, because I, for one, believe you've done some amazing stuff with youth football, and have gone on to produce some of the best talent that some people even forget about. Your Sipo Nunens, Steven Pienaar, you'll get into that. But let's start about the decision to put together an ebook, or I'm hoping eventually you will publish fully and we'll have a hard copy in our hands.
Oh, firstly, Mazola, thank you. I didn't realize, and I thought this long ago, that you become a super journal. But in saying that, good to be on the show. And thank you for having me. But like you said, why Westbury to the world? Not having anything to do, twiddling your fingers at home, thinking, reading football, watching football all the time. I met a young man on LinkedIn and I thought to myself, you know what? I think I need to give back to the community at large, whether it's Westbury community or Soweto community, because they're all intertwined. I think I need to show something whereby the next generation of athletes, whether it's football players, whether it's hockey players, rugby players, can learn from something, because I do believe our system that we are in now is only 35 years old. And there's so much that we need to share with the next generation before they look at their phones and try to make their own. They have to know where they come from and what it is like to come out there and be, I don't say I'm successful, but to get to a level where you can be satisfied with what you have given to your life.
Where do you come from, Coach Cavin? Obviously, we know snippets about it, but I don't think, at least to my knowledge, I've not read or heard you speak about your background extensively, how you grew up and, what interested you in becoming a youth coach first and foremost. Yeah. And then obviously we know the rest is history after that.
I always tell people I grew up in 3 different phases. I was born into a country of mixed race, not mixed, but there was no division. And that was in an area called Doornfontein. We lived together. And then when they decided, let's make apartheid, they took us and they shoved us into Western. And that's where, in my own family, I have white relatives and I have black relatives, which is amazing. It is another story.
Yeah.
And then, of course, now we come into the world of the Rainbow Nation. And so I've lived. I was born.
You are the Rainbow Nation.
Yes, now I am the Rainbow Nation. So but most of my young life and everything was all spent in Westbury. So that is where we started out, and because of the situation, football was one of the things that brought the communities together. When I think about it, and I think of the time playing at the Oval in Westbury, watching football there, you would see 6,000-7,000 people around the stadium watching football every Saturday and Sunday. When you think about the Bosman Football Association, on a Saturday and Sunday, you would put on your best look and things like that to go to the field and play a game of football, and you'd be watched by 3,000-4,000 people a weekend. You know what I'm saying?
So it wasn't always this rough, tough neighborhood that it's.
No, it was never. It was always about they helping each other. Yes, I think football created its own division, because, as we remember, there would always be a street that would organize a game, and all the people who stayed in that street would play for that particular band, and that's how it started, the rivalry. But it was never something that the gangs were always there because of what the apartheid done. But it was never the respect. I always feel was always there. The respect for the elder generation was always there. I always thought that no matter who we were, no matter if we were fighting, if an elder person came into the crowd and said stop, everybody would stop.
Yeah.
And they would go their separate ways and say, we'll get each other somewhere else. But it was not.
And football always seemed to bring together. Because
that.
Benny was here a few weeks ago, and he said the same thing about Hanover Park, that gangs and whatever the case may be, but when they were playing football, it's almost like everything went quiet for that moment, or that afternoon, that evening, and come together. Sport would reunite, or football, as it were, would reunite the community.
And everybody liked that. And whether you were on the opposition side or playing for this side, if you were a good footballer, everybody would enjoy what you brought to the field.
Were you a good footballer?
No, I was average. My brother was a better footballer. I was average.
And then tell us how you then emerged from this average footballer to, going on to become, first of all, a top youth coach and a top coach in the top flight division in South Africa, and then obviously outside the confines of the South African Premier Soccer League as well.
Yeah, look, it all started with a team called Bosman Chelsea, if you remember the old FPL Federation League, and they joined the PSL, and then they had a team they had the Celtic Scots League. And I was playing for Bosman Chelsea, but I stopped. And the possibility came of coaching the Celtic Scots. And we played good brand of football. And even till today, I'm still very good friends with some of them. And out of that team, probably one of the players that went to play for Kaizer Chiefs, his name was Gerard Moody. So that was my first player that I promoted to the PSL first team. But in that time, I got to meet Farouk Khan. I got to meet Zunaid Mal, but Zunaid I knew him for a while because he also played in the FPL. I got to meet Sam Mbata, Mandla Mazibuko, and we met a gentleman by the name of Ted Dimitru.
Yes. Wow.
And he was running a thing at Orlando Stadium called Chibuku. We used to go and watch, talk football, and then we started a coaches thing.
How long had he been? Obviously, he's Romanian, right? How long had he been in the country by then?
He was then quite a few years in the country already when he started Chibuku. And then we started, because there was no coaches forum or anything like that, we started SAFCA, South African Football Coaches Association. Michael Tumbela was also there. James Mabena, Chris Rollaway. We were a group of people. And we started ideas on football, what football is, started coaching, watching Ted do his job, and Sam working with the boys at the Chibuku Center. And then I think we need to give credit to Neil Tovey, because Tovey was working at Transnet, and he was running clinics, and he was looking for young coaches.
Yeah.
And been with Bafana, and he sort of found, I don't know how he found out, but he found this group of coaches.
Yeah.
And we started joining Tovey, and we went around the country: Durban, PE, Kabeja now, East London, Cape Town. We had clinics all around the country done by Transnet. And we looked at this, and we said, well, this is a good thing to do. But with Tovey, you're going in bits and pieces.
Yeah.
You're going to Cape Town every 6 months. You're teaching nothing. You're giving them,
yeah,
for sure, but we're teaching nothing. Why don't we open up super centers? And that's where Tovey said, okay, let's get Transnet to open up a super center. And the first super center we opened up was the one in Alexander, where we got a lot of players from Alex. Don't ask me why we used Alex, but Alex was the main center there. We opened up a super center there, and we trained a lot of players. Some of them went with us to the School of Excellence, but that's how it started there. And because of the success we had there and how it was going with Transnet and the exposure we were giving the boys at the super center in Alexander, we said, Tovey, the next step is we got to open up a school. Because then we found out that Transnet also had Estlin Park, which had a lot of accommodation. They had 5, 6, 7 fields. They had a swimming pool.
So it makes sense to house the kids there and have a school and go into football. Yeah.
And then we went, because we still had the little clinics going on in Cape Town, in Durban, all those areas. They were still running clinics, but on a more regular basis with other coaches from those areas. Tovey got it right to get a school agreed upon with Transnet.
Wow.
That was excellent. He has to be given credit for that.
It's almost like an untold story, this that Mokuku was involved to this extent.
No, Tovey, if ever I need money and I think Tovey has got the energy, I will go and ask him.
He's got the blueprint.
He has the blueprint.
He's always said that he's got the blueprint for success in youth football and development of coaches and that.
And we done that. We got all the coaches: Farouk, Sam, Mandla, myself, Zunaid, Tabut Ladla. And then we got teachers also involved. Steve Pila was involved.
Yes.
Shuz Mazibuko was involved. And Ted was then the technical director of SAFA, and also the main guy at the school.
He was ahead of his time, that Ted Dimitri, I tell you.
I don't know if Ted was ahead of his time. I think he was just very passionate about the game.
Yeah.
And he came with a lot of ideas. And the one thing that I can say about Ted is that even though he tried to dominate the football world, he did allow us to grow. We grew unconditionally because we always had arguments about what football is and who should play football and what South Africans do within football. But along that way, we were able to study the South American game. We were able to study the European game as well. We always looked at that. Ajax Amsterdam or Europe was one of our main sources of getting information. We made contact with the Brazilian FA, and because we were so close to the airport, all international visitors would always come into the school and see what we've done, and we were really doing a good job.
Would you say that's why you also gained prominence so quickly? I mean,
yes.
Apart from obviously being good at what you do, but
it's because we thought it out ourselves. We went for trial and error, and we then equipped ourselves with the necessary football education. For example, we said we don't want the children to go to school like a normal child. They will wake up and have a training session, go back home, have breakfast, go to school for a few hours, come out of school, go to training, go back, and then have homework. And they had a full day. They had a 9 to 5 type of day. The kids, the children that were there, and if I may say, we were very successful there, because out of maybe 38, 39 children, if I'm not mistaken, 38 of them or 35 of them played professional football. If you mention the names, you mentioned Dylan Shepherd, you mentioned Tsepo Mashishi, you mentioned Gerald Sebeko, you mentioned Stephen Pinar, you mentioned Super Noonans, Silence Malefane, Montgomery. There were so many. I even forget their names when I see them in the street now. There was a few that played for Amazulu as well. A lot of them played for Supersport. Sienki.
Yes, I remember Sienki.
You remember Sienki? Yes.
Sienki.
So those are all the crop of players that came out of the school.
Was Fire Rasilimani also there? No, he did he? No, he
no,
didn't.
Fire. Lucky Masela was there.
Yes, Lucky Masela.
He was one of the first that came out and went and played for Chiefs. We had a very good one, but he passed away. Funeko Dangulu. There was a big story written about him.
Was Ninja Mufokeng during your time as well?
Was there as well. He was also
what
one
happened
of
to Ninja Mufokeng?
He had a very bad injury in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I think he hurt his knee and he never really fully recovered. He's now working, I think, somewhere in Dawn Park. But the best thing about that was the ones that never made it. And this is where I always credit the school and for the guys who are there. The ones that never made it finished school. And they all became good citizens of South Africa. The one that also was very good was, do you remember Jeffrey Tuka?
Yes, he went to Chelsea.
He went to Chelsea.
Yeah.
Boy Masiha.
Yeah,
they were good. They were good players.
Yeah, and it's sad he came back home, played for Chiefs, and then he died from a stab wound.
Stab wound from his own friend.
It's crazy.
So that was the crazy part. But be as it may be, that's what we did.
Could you tell when they arrived, some of these kids that went on to be great, or there are some that you looked at School of Excellence thinking this one's going to make it, but in fact it was a Stephen Pinar who comes out. It's a Ninja Mufokeng who makes it all the way to the Netherlands.
I think with our mind and with the way we selected those players, because we selected them purely on their God-given talent. Not whether they were fat, whether they were thin, whether they were tall, whether they were big. We selected purely on their God-given talent. And then we started working on what their weaknesses were and how we as a group would put them together in a football field and teach them what we thought was the best way in football. Whether we knew who was going to make it, no. We thought that all of them will make it. And when we say all of them, the majority of them playing in the PSL was good enough for us. We always taught them that the one who makes it out there or makes it bigger, you must know you've put in the extra work. But the extra work you put in is going to be monitored by all of us. We're going to make sure we push each other. But we also tried to explain to them that the triangle, the bottom is always full. It's when you get to the top of the triangle that only the best will go further. And for that, the one that goes further, for an example, like a Dylan Shepherd or a Brett Evans or a Stephen Pinar or a Ninja Mufokeng, you have to be grateful for the others that pushed you through in order for you to be spotted or to be seen as one of the better players amongst all these players. Because if you remember, before Stephen went and Ninja went to Amsterdam, they first joined Ajax Cape Town.
Cape Town, yeah.
So from there, the step was Ajax Cape Town. Brett Evans, Dylan Shepherd, Stephen Pienaar, Ninja Mafokeng, Brent Carlser. They all went to Ajax. Dominic Isaacs. They all went to Ajax Cape Town first. And from there, because we had a good relationship before Ajax Cape Town was developed, we had a relationship with Ajax Amsterdam long ago.
Oh, okay. They had already made the connection.
They've already made the connection.
They were the ones that say, okay, send them
to
there, a local team
and
first.
We'll come back.
Yeah.
And when they came back, they then decided,
because then they get top flight experience.
Exactly.
You know, and then by the time they go abroad, yeah.
And you remember the was it the Rothmans Cup?
Yes.
Where Ajax played
yes.
Orlando Pirates. And they beat them the first game, but they lost the second game.
Yeah.
And they lost the trophy.
Yeah.
Or they won the trophy. They won the Rothmans Cup.
4-1.
With Steve Haupt as the interim coach.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, they won that one.
Yeah.
And that part you'll see a lot of the School of Excellence players. I think Dylan was in the team, Brent was in the team, Stephen was in the team.
I think Ninja might have been in the team.
Ninja might have been in the team as well.
Remember, yeah.
I don't know, but they were in the team that beat Pirates.
So when you're doing such great work, developing talent, sending it to Ajax, some of them quickly moving abroad, spending a few months, not even the full season in the top flight division. Why leave? Why move on and try your hand at being full-time coaches in such a thankless market that is coaching a PSL team? Because once you sign that contract, you also accept
you also get fired.
that you get fired. Yeah,
I think it was all about testing yourself, Mazola, whether you have the ability to work at the highest level within South Africa, and like you say, go to Ali as well and see if you have the ability, because the bug is always there, and I think that's the growth. But in hindsight, I think we have to say this, and we have to say this out loud, is that the best coaches are your youth coaches. The best coaches in the world are your youth coaches. But it's like our education. We do not give enough credit to our teachers. And they are not paid enough money, in my opinion, to be where they are and teaching the next generation. So therefore, I always say that, like you say, coaching youth sometimes is thankless because we don't recognize those guys often enough. We have to give them the exposure they need to tell the people that this is the best youth coaches. And that is why I think a lot of us think to go better or to go higher is the only way to expose your knowledge.
And why do you think South African football, it almost feels like we're going backwards? If you look at the Bafana team of old that was so successful, a lot of those players are school football products. Dr. Kumalo's Shoes Mashweu, Phil Masinga, and we ended up winning the Africa Cup of Nations without any of them playing abroad. It's only people think they were playing abroad at the time, but go look at the list. The clubs that they were playing for when we won the AFCON in 96, they only went abroad only afterwards, But why do you feel that, or do you agree with the sentiment that we almost feels like we're going backwards? You mentioned Shoes Mazibuko, who was doing such a great job running schools football. And then once there was a tug of war and Safa took it over, it's relapsed a little bit. It's almost like it's completely collapsing, and you can still see with the Rile Mufokeng, for instance, that there's something from youth football and School of Excellence in particular.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Mazola, it's actually gone backwards. Because when I remember when we were at the school, USASA was very, 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 very strong in all codes. And when you look at the era before that, with the Dr. Kumalos and the Shoes Mashweo and the guys who won the AFCON, they were also brought up in an environment whereby they were happy only to play football for their schools against other schools, making big tournaments of it. When you talk to Dr. Kumalo, I think he went to Orlando High or something like that, and he will tell you that the competition between Orlando High and White City High or whatever, I think it was really, really big. And the teachers, because there was nothing else, the children who came to watch and the children, you know what I'm saying? It was always a hype. It's not like now. I think there's very, very, very little school competition amongst the schools. And I'm saying this because in USASA, I won the USASA KFC tournament. And our ticket for the school was a trip to Italy to play the Italian World Cup for schools.
Jeez.
If you remember, we played the inauguration game with that team for Nelson Mandela. And I still have the video. And the people were throwing money at us because Bafana was playing, I think Bafana was playing Germany, but we played the inauguration game for Nelson Mandela in that game. And it was so full, the people were throwing money at the boys because they played such a good brand of football. But we went on to play. And that does not happen anymore. So, yes, the school's football has taken a back seat. And I think we need to recover that in order to allow the child in the street to have the opportunity to develop better. When you look at Mofokeng now at Orlando Pirates, he's from the School of Excellence. But it's too few that are coming through. Whereas before, because of the program we had, there was a lot coming through. They were being looked at all the time. Like, for example, when you had the under 14 Transnet national tournament, you had the under 16 national tournament, whereby everybody would pick all our players from the different provinces would go and represent their province. And when they played, they would be picked for a particular team. It's like we say, when the school, the players were picked for all their provinces and they would make up the core of the South African national under 17 team. They would make up the core for the national under 20s and the core would be the under 23s. So in that era, I think we must look back. The teams were always strong. When you look at the era when Benny played and they beat Brazil, the team below that was Steven and them. And they were just as strong. You see what I'm saying?
Your heart must have sunk when you probably read reports in the media that Transnet were pulling the funding from School of Excellence. I think I read somewhere that they are reconsidering that now. But what did you think of the potential death of something that's produced so many superstars over the years?
It's a shame that the leaders of football at the moment and the leaders of Transnet are not looking at the history that was produced, and at the same time not going to the people that were there initially and saying, guys, how did we do it then and how can we make it better now? Because I think, in all respect to a gentleman called Sam Mbata, he has so much knowledge of the school. So do I, so does Farouk. And we are left in the lurch or left in the dark to not understand how we can go forward. We might not need all the money that they have now, but I think there is a way to wake that giant up again and make it produce players that it did before. But I think the bigger picture is having the youth compete against each other at the highest level. We have the GDL, which is a good league, but I think it's a winning league. Everybody wants to win it. It's the same like the DDC. Everybody wants to win it. So a lot of times I watch the games and I look at the games, and all I see is winning mentality. Because even the
So
coaches,
what do you mean? Like they're not having fun. They're not playing to sort of show off their talent and sort of what school excellence was and has been in the past.
We had a philosophy at the School of Excellence. If you score 5 goals, we'll score 6 goals. Like you saw the other day with the Barcelona game. They were losing. They won 5-2, 5-4.
5-4.
You understand? And this is the mentality that we always instilled in our players, is that at the school we play to get a result as far as tactics and techniques are concerned. If the technical application does not work while doing this, do something else. But the others will cover you when you do something wrong on the pitch. So there was always a level of teaching amongst themselves on the pitch also. And we always encourage them to coach themselves on the pitch as well. Besides me standing on the line and coaching them, they needed to coach themselves also as to where they think the loopholes are, because you develop in them. You don't want them to be robots.
Yeah.
You develop in them to have a mind of their own, because there are moments within the game where you have to become a Ronaldinho. You have to become a Dr. Kumalo. You have to become an Asen Sulengo, where no coach can tell you to stand on the ball, or a Jomo Sono. No coach coaches you that. That comes from your intuition into what football is all about. So we gave them that, and then we said, now, if they score 5 goals, and there were some games when we would deliberately play against a team with 8 men. And people said, coach, they 11, we are 8. I said, yes. I want to see how you react. So we put them through a lot of those things, and I think that's what...
that's why they were so good. So my next question to you, Coach Kevin, is, if you and Coach Farouk and Coach Mandla, everybody that you worked with, were so good at what you do, and you see School of Excellence being dismantled like this, why don't you put together a project and go look for funding and redo it again?
Look, I think we've all grown, and we have thought about that.
You're too old now.
No, I'm not old. Myself and Sam have thought about that.
Okay.
Seriously. But he has a good job at Sundowns at the moment, and Farouk has got his own academy going. Mandla, may his soul rest in peace. But we did do a little bit of what we thought we were going to do at Platinum Stars. Do you remember?
Yes.
Kabomelo Khorisang?
Yes. Coach Ulani speaks about that quite a lot. Those days with you at Platinum Stars, what you were doing there.
They some of them went, I think Dino and Lovo was also part of that.
Yes.
That crop. But we had some good players come through there, and some of them went higher. But be that as it may be, the Platinum Stars is also no more.
No more. Sheesh.
And what a sad story for me, because I always think that Platinum Stars had the best facility in South Africa. They had the best facility, and they had the best surrounding. All we had to do was keep on working and try and find a way how to change that, the narrative of the Bafokeng nation to follow football. It would have taken us a little bit longer, but it was there. I mean, we didn't come second to Kaiser Chiefs and lost the league by 1 point for not working hard.
Yeah. I mean, the very next season, you left, Coach Alan Fries took over, and on the back of that, won back-to-back MTN 8, and I think it was Telkom knockout at the time.
Exactly.
So there was evidence there that there's something to build on. And that's another sad story. What on earth went wrong there?
Phew. Super sport. I moved to Super Sport, remember?
Yeah.
And that's what went wrong.
But I mean, I think it's still, in this whole conversation about youth football, there's so much going wrong at the moment, and I don't know if there's an answer to any of it. It feels like everybody from government to the powers that be in our football, everybody has ideas, but I don't know if there's any implementation.
Look, for me, I think the way forward is that we have to get the schools back to where they were before. We have to get the teachers wanting to do the extramural work and the children wanting to play football again, or hockey again, or netball again. We have to make that incentive bigger for them. We have to get that part of our sport back to normalization. Because at the moment, I don't think there's anything going on there. It's left to come to school, whether you learn, whether you don't learn, go home, play football if you want to, play hockey if you want to.
Yeah.
If you don't, it's not our problem. And along that way, you have to realize that your biggest competitor is that 5,000 Rand thing that we keep in our hands all the time, which is a cell phone. How do we get past that? Because that is the next generation of more glasses, more contact lenses, less muscle development, more arthritis in your hands. That's what it's going to cause, I think. And I always say that the cell phone is probably the best invention of the 20th century, but it's probably the biggest letdown for nation building.
Yeah. Can be a big
it can be a
distraction
big
and destruction as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, that is where we have to go, but we need to get back into our schools. And of course, we also have a big disrespect for the teachers and the elderly people coming through in our generations. Why? Because our children all want to be divas. Our children all want to be on TikTok. They all want to be on X. Those things. And like you say, it's going to be a big distraction. And there's some of us that have got the hang of it because children are clever. They are much cleverer than us. They will look like 10 million Rand in a picture, yet they don't have nothing. But they're posting all the time.
Speaking of kids and distraction, your most recent job was at Kaizer Chiefs, where you worked with a lot of young kids. Did you see that? Did you try solve that issue? Did you see a bit of it, or they were a little bit different in that they were not here all the time? Because you worked with quite a few that came from the youth. I think by the nature of Chiefs having that FIFA ban a few years ago, they sort of fast-tracked a lot of the young kids to the senior team. That kind of, some, depending on who you are and how you see the situation, some stalled in their progress, and some could still. I mean, you've spoken about Mfundo Vilakazi at length. Some have the potential to become something great and emulate some of the talent that you had at School of Excellence and even at a Platinum Stars, for instance.
Look, Mazola, I wasn't long enough at the youth to make those. If I had to make, it's all of what I thought I was going to do.
Yes, you got called in to be head of youth, and you ended up being head coach.
Yeah, so it was all of what I thought I was going to get. And you mentioned the distraction of the cell phone and all that. We were getting there because that was part of my plan, is to make sure that when we do get all these little things is that I had an analysis department that we were going to make them more interested in the cell phone to see themselves than to see something else. We opened up an analysis department where we were trying to video all their games and all their training sessions. And the idea was...
This is now the youth team, not
this
the
is the
senior
youth
team.
team.
Yeah.
Is to cut the clips from each player and post it onto his phone. And then wait for the feedback, because we thought of doing it in such a way that if he didn't watch his clips, by the next training session,
he didn't do his homework.
So we tried to get that. That was part of our deal. That especially at the DDC, where it mattered a lot, because he was going to go into the next level, which is the PSL team, especially at the under 14 team. But we tried to teach them all. Why did we try and do this? Because we also tried to bring in what the culture of Kaizer Chiefs is. And I only got this from being at Ali, is what the culture of the Kaizer Chiefs players should be like. And I give you the example, which we tried to breed in, because this is what I was going to build on when we were at youth, is that when I was at Ali, we had a 20-year-old goalkeeper that was in the first team. But he could mention the 1976 team.
Wow.
That won the CAF championship. He could mention the team that Platinum Stars beat in 2013, I think. We beat the Ali team at Loftus.
Yes.
He could mention me that team, and he's only 20.
Wow. So he was immersed in the culture.
In the culture. Yeah. And what I was going to try and do, was part of my thing, was bring in the Ace and Tsulengu.
Remember the Kaizer Chiefs glory days.
The Dr. Kumalos. Bring in the Ace Kuses. Bring in the Tabu Mokis. Bring in the Brian Beloys. And play them those little clips and say, do you know who this is?
Yeah.
Watch this player. This is the history of Kaizer Chiefs.
Yeah.
And this is the culture. Because in some moments we also look at it and say, training for Kaizer Chiefs is one thing, because you get in one voice that is telling you what to do, how to do. So you can make a lot of mistakes. It doesn't matter. You are training. But the mentality when you go on the pitch and playing for Kaizer Chiefs, there's always 10 to 15,000 people screaming.
Yeah.
And you are not afforded to make 5 mistakes, because then they start booing you. Or they start showing their fingers. You must be turned, or you must be changed. So that is also part of what I was going to show the youth, so that we can develop a culture or a mentality that when they get to the first team, they're allowed to do what they can do, no matter how many people are watching them. And this is where I see Mfundo Vilagazi having a little bit more of the thing over the other players. Because when I watched him before, he was playing Kasi football when he was 11 and 12.
Yes.
And he had people around him. When you look at the Philly games,
yes,
so he was playing in front of crowds of people.
Yeah.
Long before he knew he was good.
Yeah. And guys that were much older than he was. Yeah.
Exactly, Mazola. That is the key. He was playing against people that were much older than him. And we go back to the School of Excellence. We go back to Ajax Cape Town. We always played our players 2 ages or 1 year younger than what they were going to play against.
Okay.
So that also, it's part of the learning curve. And he has this. He knows this. You can see him. At 8, when I played him last year, he made that one trick And nobody normally makes. You know the one where you put your knee on it.
They're not brave enough to
They're
do
not
that.
brave enough to make the trick. And then what happens is the defender says, you do that again, I kick you.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Zungu
Yes.
at Platinum Stars. Zungu made people.
What a talent.
But he wasn't afraid. He knew if I did this, they're going to kick me. So when he did the trick, he knew the next tackle, I can easily be in the stands.
Yeah.
So I don't need to make the next tackle. My opposition must never know when I'm going to do this. And that's why he got away with it. And everybody says showboating, showboating. It's not about showboating. It's about the South African ability to change the game without being directed.
You can do the 360 turn, but let's go forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you look at Zongo, when you look at him, Zongo always made that stupid trick where he stands on the ball and looks like he's ballet dancing.
Yeah.
But the next pass was always forward.
Spot on, yeah.
There was one time when he done that thing and he crossed the ball onto Robert Ngambi's head and it was a goal. So what do you say about that? Showboating or perfect pass? And this is what this kid has got in his body as well.
So you had this blueprint. You never really got to implement it. What did you do with it? Is it gathering dust at home? Where's the blueprint?
No, it's still in my pocket. It's going to come out one of these days with some project. We wait and see.
Yeah.
It will come out.
And what is that project? I mean, I think as we try to wrap up our conversation, I want to kind of find out, how are you killing time now? Your agent not working hard enough to get the gigs. What is next for Cavin Johnson?
I think it's about the agent not working hard enough to get the gigs. It's about also trying to figure out when the gigs are going to come, because there's been a bit of a merry-go-round within South African football, and then we have to see who's moving where, who's moving coming out, and what do we have. Look, Cavin Johnson doesn't have an agent in any case. Cavin Johnson.
Oh, your daughter is a lawyer, so she negotiates the contracts for you.
No, not my daughter. My wife and my son. But in saying that, Cavin Johnson is, like you say, he's reading a lot of history of football. He's trying to understand the new dynamics that come along with the social media, with the betway, this whole betting companies, that Hollywood Bets, Betway, that is taking over sport within the world. I mean, it was before we were cigarettes, then it was alcohol,
then it was banks,
and now it's Hollywood Bets and Betway. So there's going to be a change in the dynamics of sport in the world and how it affects us, and also different coaches' mentalities and different things. Like I'm always talking about, people are always talking about the false nine, and I've been going into history. And if I told you that, do you know that the false nine, when it was first played, if you can guess, Mazola, I will buy you lunch.
I don't want to cheat. I heard you mention
that yesterday.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I don't want to cheat. So let me not guess, because I know the answer.
And I was shocked that it just said 1910 was the first group of people that played with the false nine. So besides that, there's little things that I'm looking at in between the lines. Why the lines? You know what I'm saying? People say this, but I'm not an old coach, but I still believe that the game is played between four lines. And the game is played 11v11 with a round object. People
can mention wing backs and whatever, but Sizwe Motaung and David Nyati were playing like that even
exactly
more than 20 years ago.
Exactly. And it hasn't changed. If you can still find me a Sizwe Motaung now that went up and down like that, may his soul rest in peace. Clive Barker will be smiling at you. You understand what I'm saying? And the same with David Nyati. That's why they had the names going up and coming down and things like that. And that's why people gave them those names. So nowadays we don't have that anymore. We don't have that. So we need to get back to that and make sure that South African football is in a better state than what we have it now. But like I said, for me, sitting at home, doing these things, and also trying to start somewhere where I can have clinics done, where I can pass on the knowledge I have of youth football that you don't find in books, and mix the two, and at the same time pass on to the next generation of aspirant coaches, whether they have certificates or not, because there's a lot of people that think having a certificate qualifies you to be a coach. But I've seen a lot of people that don't have certificates and they have the best coaching mind that you understand.
Do you want to be in the dugout again of a top flight club, or how does a technical advisor, technical sporting director role sound to you, or you want to stand there and be screaming instructions?
I think, Mazola, it depends on the project. It depends on what the owners of the club want. I've been fortunate enough in my life that I've been able to have a lot of roles within a football club. I've had a lot of roles within football, and I've been able to touch them all with a little bit of success. I've been able to be a chief scout at a very big institution like Ajax Cape Town. I've been able to be the head coach of a big club like Kaizer Chiefs, Platinum Stars, Sundowns. I've been the head of the youth, where I've set up projects that have been successful, like at Platinum Stars out of 20. You know what I'm saying? So I have all that in my head. And whoever wants to have a particular thing to do, then I think I can accomplish it without having to look in books to understand why we need to do this, how we need to do that. So I'm open to anything at this moment, Mazola, as long as we're able to talk about it and understand that this is where we need to go and this is what I want.
Yeah, well, Coach Cavin Johnson, I look forward to that ebook, and just to see what knowledge you are going to impart, because that's a trick, isn't it? To give out something that we don't already know. You don't want to pick up a blueprint or a manual around youth football and coaching in general and be like, it's we've already seen this before. Someone has already done this. The late Ted Dumitu did this, so the late Mandla did this, so and so.
I'm going to try and get the best out of that. But I also find out that, when we sit and we talk, where we can smell each other and know whether you use kuros or whether you use Gucci, I find that those conversations are the best ones. Because in my travels, Mazola, I spoke to a big man called Johan Cruyff. And I've never got a better coaching lesson from him than one-on-one. He told me one thing, and I've always coached. I've always asked players, have you ever thought, when you have the ball, where to go to your opponent? And if I told you that, I'll tell you that after the show, and you'll realize that is probably the best thing, and most top players do that.
Better than getting this conversation was better than doing your badges.
Yes.
Okay, let's leave it there, Coach Cavin Johnson. Thank you so much for your time. That's how we wrap it up, this episode of Behind the Boot with Super Journal. My guest for the hour was none other than Coach Cavin Johnson.